I stood in my parents' entryway when I heard my cousin asked, "Where's Robert and his little wife?" My stepdad voice cut through, "You mean the pig and his dumb little a-hole?" By morning, they got all fired. Laughter rippled around the table. Not shocked gasps, not uncomfortable silence, actual laughter. My mother's response destroyed me more than the insult. "Now, Frank, your son-in-law is sick tonight." Her tone was mildly scolding, like he'd used the wrong fork. Then she smoothly changed the subject to her book club. I stood frozen, processing what I just heard. My stepfather had called my husband, who employed half our extended family, who paid for my nephew's surgery, who bought my parents their house, a pig, and me, his stepdaughter of 15 years, a vile slur. And my mother's biggest concern was correcting him that Robert was sick. I left without going in, sat in the taxi trying not to cry, wondering how many dinners I'd missed where they talked about us like this. Robert was still awake when I got home, propped up in bed with his laptop, running his company even with a 102-degree fever. He took one look at my face and closed the computer. What happened? I tried to think of how to tell him. Robert had hired my brother Keith as a favor. Keith had no experience, but Robert gave him an executive position. My cousin Tony managed 3 of Robert's properties. My uncle Stan ran Robert's charitable foundation. Even Frank had a cushy consulting role that paid him 6 figures to essentially do nothing. Just family drama, I said. Robert studied me. He knows me too well. What did they say about me this time? Apparently, I wasn't as good at hiding things as my family was at hiding their contempt. The next morning, I told him everything. Robert listened without any expression, which is how he processes difficult information. He asked me to repeat Frank's exact words 3 times. Asked who was definitely there, who definitely wasn't. Then he picked up his phone. "Keith, you're fired. Clear out your office by noon." Click. "Tony, your property management contract is terminated. You have 30 days to vacate the apartment." Click. "Stan, the foundation is closing. Your last check is in the mail." Click. Each call was under 30 seconds. No explanation, just surgical removal. My phone started ringing immediately. My mother. "Robert told me to let it ring. Make her wait," he said. "She made you wait for basic respect. Let her feel powerless for once." After the 20th call, I answered. "Keith just called saying he's been fired. Tony's being evicted. What happened? Can Robert help?" "Robert's the one who fired them." Silence. "Why would he do that?" Her voice was strange, cautious. I heard what Frank said at dinner, about the pig and his dumb little a-hole. The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Then click. She had. Over the next days, the apologies started arriving. Written ones, as Robert had demanded through his lawyers. Keith's was 3 pages, swearing he never participated, just didn't know how to stop Frank. Tony admitted Frank had been calling Robert names for years but claimed he always changed the subject. Uncle Stan wrote that Frank's jealousy had poisoned every family gathering, but he was too afraid to speak up. But nothing from Frank. Nothing from my mother. A week later, my mom called again. She cried, said she was sorry, that she never meant to hurt me, that Frank was just jealous of Robert's success. "Then write it down," I said. "Send the written apology Robert requested." "I can't," she whispered. "Frank won't let me. He says we don't apologize to people who use money as a weapon. But it's okay to use cruel words as weapons? You don't understand marriage." I hung up. 2 weeks later, Frank lost his consulting contract. Robert had to wait for the contract terms to allow it, but Frank's $150,000 a year disappeared overnight. My mother called screaming that we were trying to destroy them. That was 6 months ago. We've received apologies from everyone who was at that dinner except my mother and Frank. My siblings chose to maintain relationships with Robert and me. The cousins and uncles reformed their connections. But there's a hole where my mother used to be. She chose her husband's pride over her daughter's pain. Frank chose his ego over everything Robert had given him. Last month, my brother Keith let slip that Frank still rants about Robert at family dinners, calling him worse names now. But the table's gotten smaller. Frank still drives past Robert's office sometimes, according to security. He parks across the street and stares at the building he'll never enter again. The building where he used to have an office with his name on the door, where he'd brag to his friends about being a consultant, where Robert gave him purpose and income he hadn't earned, all destroyed because he couldn't keep his jealousy.